Let me see if I can squeeze this video in just before the sun sets here. Tomorrow is the new moon in Virgo, so I'm going to do my new moon video after the new moon like I typically do. But I wanted to cover an important transit today because at the time of the new moon, Mercury will just have squared Jupiter. And this is a video about Mercury in Libra. Mercury entered the sign of Libra on September the 5th. It leaves the sign of Libra. Let's see if I can do this. Mercury entered Libra on September the 5th. It leaves Libra on September 27th and enters Scorpio. Then on October the 14th, it goes retrograde. I shouldn't have gone that far off the screen. Mercury entered Libra September 5th, September 27th Scorpio, October 14th retrograde, October 28th back in Libra. I'm watching myself as I do this, sorry. Direct on November 3rd, November 10th back in Scorpio till the end of November. So once again, September 5th into Libra, September 27th into the next sign of Scorpio. October 14th retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde. October 14th, October 28th, back into Libra, November 3rd, direct again, and November 10th, back into Scorpio till the end of the year. Now, sorry, I was just waving at someone. This back and forth energy, Libra in general is, at least to all outward appearances, a not quite such a rough sign. Although, as I've mentioned to you guys in my videos before, the sign of Libra actually has a kind of a velvet glove, iron hand quality. It's a cardinal sign. It's just tends not to be quite so expressed in its cardinal leadership quality as, say, Capricorn or Aries. But as far as cardinal signs go, like the sign of Cancer, it tends to be a softer leadership sign. And if you were to really look at and examine charts of certain leaders, you might be surprised at who has a Sun in Libra or strong leadership or strong Libra placements, irrespective. The sign of Libra is very much concerned with relationships and the give and take associated within relationships to keep a healthy sense of balance within them, so that relationships don't go too far into codependency or a certain amount of unhealthiness there. It's certainly not a sign of independence. So with Mercury in Libra, I can only really talk about the Mercury transit in the sign of Libra. I cannot talk about it necessarily how it impacts you in your chart, because I'm not seeing your chart. So if you know which house the sign Libra inhabits, sorry, it's clearly a few hours before the new moon because it's just sleepy and hard to get even the words out. If you know which house is occupied by Libra in your chart, then the Mercury transit impacts that house and what that house stands for. But this video is about Mercury in Libra, and Mercury in Libra is typically preoccupied by communicating about, transacting, thinking about, processing relationships. And these are typically contractual relationships. So it could be things like agents and managers and spouses. Serious committed relationships. So clients, significant clients, for example. There's often the potential in these relationships for there to be financial involvement. This certainly is with spouses. Intimacy involvement, irrespective. The transit of Mercury in Libra, starting September 5th, may have put you in a place of at once clarity and geniality when it comes to looking at certain relationships. And it's not as if relationships are not going to be under a certain amount of stress and pressure through this transit. And that's just the general astrology of the time, where we're being asked to wrap up energies that have been in play, so as I've mentioned to you ad nauseum now, since the middle of July 2018 and embrace a new set of energies that have been starting to gather momentum since April the 5th of this year and start to again after September the 30th of this year. So in the middle of this churn and this turmoil and this ending the old and beginning the new, you have the planet of communication that has entered a sign that is associated with relationships and balance and harmony within relationships and building bridges and peace accords and negotiations and contracts and agreements. Great on the surface. And great in general, because it may be that at least as we headed into September, there was the desire to sit across the table from each other. Whether that invitation was actually around, let's meet to talk about this, or whether you decided or have decided to at least consider certain relationships and have, without really knowing it, subconsciously been in a place where you've been thinking about them. What does this relationship mean to me? Is it important to me? Shall I be genial? Shall I give it the benefit of the doubt? Somewhere with Mercury and Libra, there might be a certain cordiality currently, but there's also an internal examination as far as relationships are concerned. And then, of course, because Mercury is going to move into Scorpio by the end of this month, September the 27th, and then back in Libra, it's very, very hard not to state that Mercury in Scorpio goes into relationships in an even deeper and an even more serious, in an even more intimate, in an even more dredging way. So relationships are under some sort of a communication and processing and thinking microscope in September and October. I wish I could say it's easygoing, but the transits in Libra, the Sun is going to come into Libra in about 4 or 5 days' time, 6 days' time, around September the 22nd. So Libra season is going to begin, and there's going to be a new moon in Libra, in mid-September, mid-October, mid-October, October 15th or so, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a certain amount, wherever Libra sits in your chart, is increasingly going to be getting more and more energy. And Mercury, as I said, goes into Scorpio, comes back, goes direct again. So this whole thing, at least from a relationship perspective around, I'm considering relationships in the end of September, early October, things are going to become really more serious about relationships. We're going to take a step back, go retrograde, come back into Libra, go back into Scorpio, and then remain there till November 1st. So this examination of relationships, the Sun is going to be transiting. There'll be new moons in those signs over the next couple of months, 2-3 months. Venus is gradually going to enter these signs, adding her own dynamic as far as the relationships are concerned. And the sign of Libra normally having such a quarterly bridge building emphasis finds itself under a certain amount of duress, because any planet that goes through Libra is going to oppose Mars in Aries, a very me, a very independent, a very self-connected placement, a very I'm going to think about what is right for me and do what is right for me placement. Mars is currently retrograde. And any planets going across Libra are going to square 3 planets in Capricorn, where there's been an energy and need to release something and look at patterns and boundaries that are no longer serving you and learn some lessons and create new beginnings. A lot of pressure in the sign of Capricorn. I just did a video on Jupiter and Capricorn. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video once I'm done processing it. A lot of pressure in the sign of Capricorn to, again, end whatever needs to be ended, incorporate the lessons learned, dot the I's, cross the T's that have been in place since at least December 2017, and even more urgently since July 2018. And so the planet of thinking and communication is going to come up against trying to assess relationships in a balanced manner, is going to start to square tonight Jupiter, the planet of new beginnings in the sign of Capricorn that is trying to end things and create new shoots and opportunities. It's going to square Pluto, the planet of death and transformation in Capricorn, on the 21st of September. It's going to square Saturn on the 23rd of September, oppose Mars. That is a relationship opposition. On the 24th of September, on the 27th, go into Scorpio, where the communication and processing becomes even more, I have to say it, emotional, intense, focused on the truth. I mean, when Mercury goes into Scorpio, it's sort of a crucible, it's a litmus test. That's really where some of this pondering and so far being gentle and coming into, here's the bottom line. We're entering into at least about a week between now and September the 24th. We're entering into a period of where relationships are going to be tested. The planet of communication, thinking, and processing that is trying to give everybody a break and that is trying to be a little bit detached in its examination is going to go into kind of a deadlock with planets that are trying to teach us consequences and create new beginnings and create transformation in a part of the chart that has had a lot of heavy, wherever Capricorn sits in your chart, has had a lot of heavy transits since July 2018. And those consequences and these new beginnings are much more faded, much more powerful, much clearer. So the planet, even if the planet of communication may have been trying to reverse or go back or deal with, it's as if change in relationships is in the air. And there's a kind of there are different phases, different elements, different layers, different waves of truth-telling. And it's not exactly comfortable. So our ability or desire to build bridges and be in communication and be diplomatic clashes headlong into certain changes that have been developing since end of 2017, and where it's consequence time and it's endings and new beginnings time, and those are already in play. So this desire to build bridges with maybe certain relationships that can't really stand that test is very much in play. And then on the 24th, the opposition to Mars, which is retrograde, already has taken certain strides to assert itself independently and is in a place of, all right, let me put down my arms and let me reconsider certain things in terms of what stances and positions that I have taken. But, opposes the desire to sit across each other from the table and have certain conversations may end up being helpful only insofar as it moves the needle on concluding certain things that we may either have been in denial about, or on a certain level, the desire to sit across the table from other people and either consider them or directly be in communication with them is futile, because the processes of change and whatever strain those relationships have been under since 2017 and 2017, those forces are too strong. That wave, that ball is already rolling down, that boulder is already rolling down the hill, and Mercury can't stop it. It can't say, let's talk it out anymore. But the process of talking it out will be helpful, at least in being able to drive things to conclusion in a way that your mind still has to catch up to things. It still has to catch up to things in a way that it can have the courage to have certain conversations, to create certain breaks, to maybe try and forge new understandings through this process, because in certain cases that might be the case. So during the month of September and October, certainly the communication, transaction, social media, technology, cognition, processing, planet observation, our mind, our brain, our ability to make sense of things is involved in a kind of a boulder roll that is already happening, related to new energies coming in and old energies wanting completion. The old energies wanting completion have increasingly, when Mercury goes through and squares Jupiter tonight and Pluto in a few days, and then Mars on the 27th and Saturn on the 27th, forgive me, and then it goes retrograde, it's going to square Saturn twice, because it's going to come back into Libra October 28th and then go direct on November the 3rd. And so when it comes back into Libra October 23rd, at the end of October, it will square Saturn once, go direct November 3rd, and on November 6th, square Saturn again. Saturn Saturn is the consequence planet right now in Capricorn. Certain amount of work on patterns, behaviors, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, have been in place since December 2017. Saturn goes direct on September the 28th. It is going to be intent between now and the end of the year to make sure that you have dotted the I's, crossed the T's, laid a foundation, built on whatever needs to have been built in this part of the chart in Capricorn. And Mercury coming up against it 3 times. As I said to you, there's a, because it's Mercury, the image that is coming to my mind is going up to a microphone and kind of knocking it and going, testing, testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Can you hear me? That energy is certainly in the air. Relationships are being tested. And this next week is very important and crucial. Mercury goes into Scorpio. Whatever occurs over this next week puts us in a space of looking at things in even deeper and more enmeshed ways. If you're considering things like divorce or separations or coming together with people or contracts, it could be that some of the conversation as Mercury goes into Scorpio, then comes retrograde into Libra, and then goes into Scorpio again for the rest of October, till November the 1st. Sorry, rest of November. Can't wait for this new moon tomorrow. Rest of November, only to enter Sagittarius on December the 1st, I believe. During that time, this thing about the person and the nature of the relationship and the enmeshment, financially and emotionally, we're in that space. There's a scrutiny. And it could be that some of this, if it's more casual, then that's one thing, but it could be that there are financial enmeshments, contractual components, whether it's marriage, divorce, whether it's business, whether it's friends. Something along all of this comes up for examination, and it's all part of this kind of Mars trying to move us forward, but still retrograde, goes direct in the middle of November, right after Mercury goes direct. Saturn in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn, this churn between ending and then embracing new energies, and then Mercury comes into Libra, and then the Sun will come into Libra, and there'll be a new moon in Libra, and all these relationship energies will go through a test for the rest of September and the rest of October and even into November. So that by the time we emerge into December, as I've said to you guys, after the middle of November, it's all systems go. But there's a particular emphasis with this Mercury transit where relationships are being tested. Tomorrow's new moon is actually a strangely stabilizing and constructive one. But I needed to get this video out today because there's no question that this new moon, while constructive in a certain way, is still going to bear the imprint of really testing certain relationships in some ways once and for all, to know who's going to be in the boat and who's not going to be in the boat as we head into mid-November and then embrace a certain amount of rapid forward movement at the end of November and into December and into 2021. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say about this for now. New moon video tomorrow, new moon Virgo video tomorrow. If you liked this video, found it useful, etc., feel free to share it. As I said, some of you will resonate strongly with this. Some of you, it depends on where the sign of Libra and Scorpio sit in your chart. So you'll be able to, if you know where that is, then you'll be able to get a sense of what parts of your life are going to be impacted by this Mercury transit. And if you know that, then you'll also know where Aries is in your chart and Capricorn is in your chart. If you like this video, feel free to share it, feel free to like it, comment on it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you're notified every time I do a new video. And also, my contact information is in the subject area, so you can reach out to me and inquire about rates for readings or creating an easy-to-read version of your chart so that you know which signs are in which houses and what those houses stand for. But do not, inquire about the rates first before you send me any personal information like your birth date and birth time. I don't want that stuff sitting in my email unnecessarily. So feel free to reach out to me and inquire about rates if you're interested. I'll leave it at that. Back tomorrow with the new moon and Virgo video. Glad to have done this with still a little bit of light in the sky. All right, take care.